All right, man. Looks like we are live. Hamadi Hump Day,
Here we go.
episode deux or three
Dude.
if you're counting the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like years ago. I don't think that counts. Can't
Well,
count.
I have the podcast channel still live on Apple and Spotify and whatnot, and
Oh,
yeah, and so I'm downloading the audio. It's audio only, so I'll download the audio for the last one, put it up, and then this one will be up maybe a couple days from now. So
nice.
yeah,
Have we gotten
man.
any comments on the YouTube stream or not?
I don't know. I haven't checked the comments yet. We do have one viewer though. I noticed this. One viewer, so that's oh, they just dropped off.
Ah,
I'm like, hey, we're growing, man. We're growing.
an audience. I saw there was a thing about people that do Twitch streaming,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and what they had mentioned was that you just have to get it was like your first viewer. As long as you have a viewer, it made such a huge difference as far as how the stream worked and what you were able to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like once you going from 0 to 1 is like an infinite increase, and
Yeah,
then
right,
after that it's just percentages. I thought
right.
that's a good way to think about it.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I it's kind of funny. I was Bobby Pillay had watched. Give a shout out to Bobby. I don't know if he's the one watching or not, but Bobby, I know you'll watch it eventually. And he was like, the who's the football player that's dating Taylor Swift?
Kels something or
Kelsey, yeah, Kelsey,
yeah.
Travis, yeah. So him and his brother have a podcast, and he was like, "Is this?" I can't remember the name of it now, but he's like, "Oh, is this like that podcast except more cerebral?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Well, it's certainly less jock."
Yes. Hey,
Yeah.
so I had to bring 110%, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
We need to also make our voices more powerful. They they had it's kind of funny though because I wasn't aware that they had a podcast. This is how unplugged I am. And after he pointed that out to me, I went and I listened to a couple episodes, and it's actually really good. I mean,
Yeah.
they are excellent. Their banter back and forth is excellent, and then they have some really cool guests. Like they had Arnold Schwarzenegger on a couple weeks ago,
Oh no way.
and I mean the Governor, man. I mean, and he nailed it. I mean, his interview is just awesome. So
Well, Super Bowl winning professional athlete, you probably get some good guests.
I think maybe it has more to do with the Taylor Swift connection though. You never know.
Oh,
Arnold may be
dating the most famous musician in the world.
Arnie may be a Swiftie, man.
Could be.
Yeah,
Hey, they're everywhere.
right.
There are dozens of them.
Well, dude. So we had several comments on the last episode. So one of them was I hesitated to tune in because I know you guys like to talk politics, but it was surprisingly light on the politics and current events, and I was able to watch the whole thing. I'm like, well, good for you. That's
It
awesome.
wasn't a nightmare. Good.
Right, yeah, exactly. Not a total crash and burn,
Uh,
And we just for the record, right,
Yeah.
for the audience, I mean, we are unscripted. I mean, we have not even talked about what we were going to talk about on this show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Politics just didn't come up, which it is kind of funny because whenever we're together, especially when it's the two of us and our other brother, it winds up almost always turning into some kind of insane political discussion. And we wind up being like, no, you're not listening. No, you're not listening. It's like, why isn't anybody listening to anybody?
No one's listening.
No
Everybody's
one's
just throwing syllables.
No, you're wrong, communist. Like, Anyway.
I always remember that scene in Anchorman when Steve Carell's character was loud noises.
Loud noise. Yeah. Oh, it really does turn into that. And then our wives, who are all very sweet and patient people, who wind up just leaving the room. Like, no, we don't really want any part of this. Like,
We're out of here.
Are they mad at each other? Like, no, they're not mad. They're having a good time. But
It is interesting though, actually, and I think your wife was one of the ones that really kind of called my attention to it, and I think maybe I was able to hear her in a different way because we've been friends for years before you guys even started dating, and so we've been she's been a good friend for a long time, and she was just like, you guys just, I mean, I know you're not, but you just sound so angry, and you belittle each other. And I'm like, dude, nobody was belittling anybody, like I certainly didn't feel that way, but somebody from the outside watching is like, and I think that the big thing for me, I mean, like since she told me that, and that was probably a year and a half ago now, I've been very conscious of. I'm still not excellent at it, but I'm like, man, like it's amazing how quick that tone of like, disrespect or derision or whatever creeps into the conversation, especially when you're so convinced of your own point of view. And I think the thing that it's called my attention to, even outside family conversations, just in general. I was I've got a neighbor. This guy, he's his dad is from Jamaica, a Jamaican dude, right? And his mom's British, and he just a great guy. He got me into he taught me how to ride his one wheel. I don't know if you've ridden one of those, but I rode the one wheel. Dangerous. It's super dangerous. And then he also had the Super 73 e-bikes. Him and his wife both have the electric bikes. And they're the ones that really got me on that journey of like, oh, I should really check in. And now I've got 2 e-bikes, right? Yeah. And so I went over to his house last week. It was late at night. He texted me at like 11 p.m., right? And was like, hey, man, what you doing? And I was like, oh, man, it was like this kind of like callback to like my old days, before I was a dad and living in the suburbs, right? I'm like, yeah, I mean, 11's totally permissible to go, what's up, man? Let's go do stuff. And so I was like, dude, just chilling, And he goes, well, hey, the wife and I are out drinking on the patio if you want to stop by. And he lives like, half a block from me. I can walk to his house. And so, but I didn't, of course, I took the e-bike. And I was like, yeah, man, I'll be right over. So I go over. He's got this friend who I didn't know, but he's part of the e-bike riding circuit. There's a Facebook group. I'm going to go on a ride later this afternoon with these guys. But anyway, I didn't know this guy. And so we just start talking, bantering back and forth. And somehow in the conversation came up, did I tell you about that podcast that I watched? Joe Rogan had that guy on that kind of disproved the whole idea that we went to the moon, that the whole moon landing was fake and everything.
I hadn't heard that one.
Okay, so and I mean, like, I believe we went to the moon, right? Like, I mean, I'm very kind of traditional. Like, never even. I mean, I've heard crazy theories about, oh yeah, it was faked, and I was like, whatever. I mean, these people are loonies. This guy, and Rogan had him on there and grilled him. Like Rogan is. I mean, those interviews are like
rockets. We saw the rockets.
Right, 2.5, 3 hour long.
My hand next to the rocket.
Right. Felt the blast. Right, yeah. And the guy literally, and it was kind of funny because the guy's been studying it forever. He's got all these like proofs, a website, all this big time conspiracy theorist. And so anyway, I was just relaying that I had watched this podcast. I was like, have you guys seen this? What do you think about this? And this, not my neighbor, but actually my neighbor too. They both kind of ganged up on me. They're like, are you crazy? I can't believe you don't get sucked down this rabbit hole. And they were like, and I'm like, whoa, guys! I mean, nobody was. I mean, we weren't even alive. I mean, let's calm down. None of us were even here. Yeah, just right. And they were like, It was on the level of flat Earth. Like they're like, we're not entertaining this for a minute. Like, no way, right? Yeah. And anyway, and they got really heated. And it was going back to that initial point. I was just like, guys, like, no need to be attached here, man. Like, I'm not even trying to soft sell anything. I was just asking if you'd heard the podcast. That's all.
Yeah.
Calm down.
I was actually thinking about the whole, like, people get really worked up in these, especially political discussions, but having a good time doing it, right? They're enjoying that. And so my wife and I have a pit bull. Well, she's half pit bull. The other half's husky and a bunch of other stuff. So weird dog. But she has the pit bull style play, which is tugging, pulling, right? That you clamp down,
clamping, and not letting go, right?
And so we were fostering this other pit bull. She's half pit bull, half something else. I can't remember. Big dog, bigger, and they would grab onto these toys, and you would hear like the savagery. It'd be like like that, and just like pulling. And Marissa's, she works from home. My wife works from home, so she in the background you just hear, and people be like, "What's going on? Are you okay?
Are
What's
you
going on?"
okay? Yeah, yeah.
And she'll turn the camera, and you can see them, and they're growling like I'm going to kill you, like I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to find your mom, and I'm going to kill your mom too. You know, they're
Right.
growling like this, but the whole time their tails are wagging, and they'll completely disembowel a toy while growling at each other, and then go find another toy together, and then come back, and one of them will pick it up, and the other one will look at it like, is it ready? Are we ready to start? Like, yeah, let's start. The savagery begins again. Rah, rah, rah. And it's like, oh, they're playing. It
Mhm.
just sounds to us like is it they're fighting, they're trying to tear each other apart. It's like, no, no, no. They're having the best time.
Right, but we're talking about like cross species communication, like like entering a dog's world, for example, right?
Yeah.
But I think the awareness that kind of came to me from Marissa's and I conversation was more like, I'm a human being trying to communicate with other human beings, and if people outside the conversation, get this vibe, right?
They hear
then
the savagery.
then and it's not even so much like that I care what they think about me, but like it's more like if I'm trying to be persuasive to the person I'm speaking to, right? 99% chance my strategy isn't effective right now.
Yeah. That's all that comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Siblings are fun. It's fun being a dad and watching your kids interact with each other. And mine get annoyed at me sometimes because I'm like, don't understand. Like this person that your sister. This is going to be the most valuable person in your life. Like, take it from me. I had a super contentious relationship with my brothers when I was a kid. Like, little brother and I fought all the time, like shoving each other against the walls, and had to be broken up.
Mm-hmm.
And like constantly snubbing my older brother or being snubbed by him, and it's like
that never happened.
Now
it's
we're
for
like,
the audience.
yeah. Now we're like, the most valuable relationships are my relationship with my brothers, and it's like I never would want to do anything that would damage that. And just thinking back, I'm kind of embarrassed of the way I was as a kid, like, why would I not take, I mean, I lived with them. We could have had such a great time, and I, threw it away kind of thing. So I'm like trying to get them like, don't throw it away. But of course they can't hear me, but like they'll hear me later.
Right.
Hopefully, and it's like, they'll be in their 30s. And they're like, I remember dad saying this, like we laughed at him, but now we can be close.
Yeah. Are your daughters pretty close, you think, now?
Yeah. Well, they have like the sister stuff. Like they're very close. They do a lot of stuff together, but they get on each other's nerves. And they're very different from each other. And I mean, that's just kind of sibling life, right? So a lot of times the people that you're closest to, you love the most, are also kind of your kryptonite. And so, maybe the reason why we can be close is because we don't live together. It's like, oh, he's 3 hours away. Well, now we can be great friends. It's when we were under the same roof. Well, there's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. You guys live too close together.
Yeah.
Down the hall.
Down the hall. It's like, oh, here he comes again.
Or in the same room.
Oh. Well, I think that was what got me with my little brother, as we lived in the same room for most of our lives.
Yeah, it was. And so when I went to college, so like I was 4 years ahead of you, and you were in school, and then you were 2 years ahead of Brian, right?
Brian, yeah.
So when I left, then did you move into my room, or like?
No, he did.
Oh, he did. Okay.
He did. Yeah. He was like, because I was like, I'm not. Why would I move? This is my room.
It's always been my room. It's always been my room.
You're a guest here. If you don't like it, you can leave. So he moved into your room, and it was really funny. That was, people talk about interesting technological transitions. So me as the middle child, I was watching you use the phone all the time, talking to like, your friends, usually a lot of girls or whatever. And, you had really strong phone game. Apparently, I don't know. But you were always,
we weren't allowed to leave the house. That was the only game you could have.
Exactly. You're like, hey, can I go to this hangout thing? You're like,
no.
Yes, as long as you're back by 4 p.m. You're like, 4 p.m. What?
4 p.m. It doesn't start till 6.
Yeah, like, well, then that sounds like a you problem. Well, so you leave, go to college. Brian moves in. He's 17. I'm getting ready to go to college, and he's on the phone all the time. But he's logged into uh, AOL Instant Messenger, and he's got
Oh,
5 or 6, the modems back then.
right, right. The dial up. Yeah.
So he's got a bunch of these windows open, and he's chatting to like 4 or 5 different girls at the same time. And so he's constant. So it's like I'm watching two brothers constantly on the phone, but something happens in those intervening years where being on the phone now is radically different.
Yeah. Well, because you were able to have a shared experience now, not just this conversation, but maybe you're in a group room, or talking about planning something, or kibitzing about some game you're trying to beat, or Wolfenstein, or whatever
Yeah.
that was kind of the I remember. In fact, somebody was asking me because we just finished. In fact, we should talk about Fallout, the series, because you finished it now, right?
No, I have.
Oh.
Dude, I've been too busy. I have not.
Who was this? Oh no, Dan was telling me he just finished it. So okay,
I'll watch it, but between now and next week, I'll watch it. It's only like 5 or 6 episodes, right?
I think it's 8, but like you'll fly through it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll get it done.
but like, I mean, that the first Fallout game came out in '97. I mean, I don't think, like, I left home in '93, and we had Wolfenstein, and Doom had not come out yet. But
Yeah.
what was the
Wolfenstein was 92, and then Doom came out in December of 93.
okay? I feel like there was another game that was kind of a predecessor of Doom. Uh,
No.
Captain something, or
Commander Keen was made by the same studio.
okay,
Wolfenstein.
Yeah, Commander Keen was more of like a 2D kind of like, but it was still that exploration and journey and explore, find things and unlock doors and solve puzzles, and yeah. Prince of Persia, I think.
Labyrinth.
What's Pan? Oh yeah, dude. Ken's Labyrinth.
Yeah, that was another one.
Pan's Labyrinth was that movie. Yeah,
that was a movie. Yeah, Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a remarkable, like, when you bring in the multiplayer facet to a game. And I think you were real big on that too, like not in the digitally, but like didn't you play Magic or something like that for a while?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And weren't you like the grandmaster of some?
No. I was top 10 in Central Texas for a little bit. But yeah, it's like, I was top 10 in Central Texas in a children's card game.
You should really consider. Have you ever considered putting together like a not a book of accolades, but I mean, you've accomplished quite a bit that I didn't even. I mean, like even the last podcast. I would call
that an accomplishment.
Well, I knew that one though. But like the last podcast we were on, you were talking about your volleyball. You were NCAA. I'm like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, student athlete. I be more bro-ish. Yeah, man. Just gotta
bro-ish. You should be exactly the way you are because you're awesome. That's why we have this podcast. You bet, man.
Thank you.
So you haven't watched Fallout. Have you seen Sugar yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No, we just finished up Man in Full, which is loosely based on the Tom Wolfe novel. Are you a Tom Wolfe fan at all?
Apparently not.
He did.
I know who Tom Wolfe is, but
he did the Bonfire of the Vanities,
right,
and I'm Charlotte Simmons. That
I know that one.
Nuts. If you want to just be angry at the world and hate people,
I'm already there. I don't need that book.
Yeah, the misanthropy is strong with this one. But
what was the show you were just talking about though?
Man in Full.
Man in Full. Was it on Hulu or
it was
HBO?
on Hulu, yeah, and it was or no, Netflix, I think. Anyway, but it was Jeff Daniels plays the lead character, who's kind of a Trumpish guy, a real estate developer, but from Atlanta, and he's got like the ex-wives and the younger trophy wife, and he's in the middle of a debt crisis that is threatening to kind of consume his legacy, and It's fair. It was definitely like a good hate watch. Like there are no characters where like, wow, I admire this person. I want them to succeed. You're kind of like, I hate all these people.
Right.
I just want them all to die. And this is entertaining. It's entertaining watching their life go down in flames. And
I felt like that was Bonfire of the Vanities was kind of like that. You're like, yeah, burn, baby.
Or as Tom Wolfe, right? That he
Yeah.
loves. What do they call that type of satire? The Juvenalian satire. So it's like that Roman model of like the satire is mainly meant to just give you contempt for all the characters.
All right.
Yeah, like awesome.
I feel like there's a lot of comedians that are very good at that. Like they just get on stage and they're just like, oh, everything sucks, everything's horrible. Like, oh, here's another example. You guys have probably experienced this. And they'll roll out something, and you're like, and everybody's like, yeah, that does suck. That's awful.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, life is garbage.
Life is garbage. Exactly.
There was something I wanted to discuss. I've been kind of this has kind of been making the rounds a little bit on social media. And have we talked about the dead internet theory before?
No, let's do it.
Are you familiar with this concept?
No, but I'm sure I will be.
So this has been on my mind. As soon as I heard this concept, it has been on my mind just, sort of at a low level. Like every day, it's kind of there a little bit, the dead internet. So here's the thesis. Ooh, I got an echo.
You did? Oh, you know what? It's because I'm switching my headphones here.
What are you switching to? Let's have
some product placement.
My other AirPods.
Apple product.
Yeah.
Are we sponsored by Apple?
Should be. Yeah, I should be.
Oh, wow.
Next okay, time. There we go.
You sound good. You sound good now. So
thanks, man.
So here's the dead internet theory. So, you know how if you do a Google search, the first page is almost none of them are going to be real sites. So like let's say you look up, let's say you want to buy something. I don't know. You want to buy a car vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
So you go onto Google and you type in best car vacuum cleaner, and then you put the year in because you don't want something from 2013 because those are probably discontinued.
Right.
So best car vacuum cleaner 2024, and it's going to come up with a whole bunch of sites, but none of them are real sites. Like you'll click one and it's like, basically just scraping Amazon reviews and giving you a top 10 list based on the ones that have the highest reviews. And then there's affiliate links for all those. And there's a bunch of ads everywhere if you don't have them blocked. And so, but they're engineered, they use search engine optimization, SEO, in order to get as high as possible on that list, because as high as you can get when people click on it and then they buy through that affiliate link,
you're going to earn some commissions. Yeah.
So they're willing to spend as much as they need to get to the top of that list so they get all of the money from those affiliate purchases. So if you want to find a site that actually reviews your car vacuums, good luck.
Yeah.
It's probably 4, 5, 6, 7 pages down. It's there. Someone is doing this, but you'll never find it. So in a way, Google is kind of dead. It's been taken over by SEO, and in the past, the SEO stuff had to be done by a human person. So
but now it's
that site with all of the text in there, and most of it is
metadata. Yeah.
Someone had to craft that. Now they probably use some automated tools to make it very fast, but that site with its thousands of review pages had to be built out.
Okay.
Now, all of that content can be created automatically by large language models. So you don't even have to have someone to mock up the page of, best car vacuums and the affiliate links, and to have like text in there that says, well, when you're searching for a car vacuum, it's really important to find the best one, all this other stuff. You don't even have to write it out yourself. You have automated tools do that for you. And then you start to notice a lot of once you have an eye. So I've seen a lot of AI generated writing Because I'm a college professor, and that's what people are returning.
How do you spot it? How can you go, oh, this was AI?
It's kind of like a sixth sense. Like it's hard to explain, but you'll read it, and there's something about there's a kind of vagueness, blandness to it.
Doesn't feel
Very
quite right.
hard to describe. Like if I pointed out like an individual, it's like, oh, this sentence right here, and it's like, well, what is it about that sentence? It's like, it's wrong. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's wrong.
It's like when Brian, our little brother, who's law enforcement, he would be able to look at a car and be like, that car's dirty. You're like, why? What is it? And you're like, it just is. And then you run the plates, and it turns out the guy has a warrant.
Sure enough.
Like, how did you know? And he's like, it's right there. It's obvious. If you kind of
profiling is the answer.
Profiling,
yeah.
So I can profile AI really good. So
I agree with that. I mean, I mean, it rings true to me. So I'd be surprised if anybody watching this would be like, no, I don't know what you're talking. In fact, it's even to the next level with video reviews now. Like, I mean, because I was in the market for an e-bike for 4 or 5 weeks. I was searching, reading reviews, because what ended up happening was I'm like, okay, I want to buy an e-bike, and so my neighbors have this brand, the Super 73, which is like this very well known, kind of the Apple of e-bikes. Basically, they created this
brand recognition,
right? This cafe racer looking e-bike. And so, but it's also very expensive. And I'm just kind of like, well, dude, if I'm going to spend $4,000 and I want to get $4,000 worth of value, I mean, is this really the place to do it? And so, go on Amazon, dude, there's thousands of and these companies literally look like somebody mashed together a bunch of vowels and consonants and came up with like a name,
like
and it's like
such IKEA names were difficult.
Totally, dude. I mean, these aren't even made up by humans. Like, you can't pronounce that, and it's like this company, such and such electric bicycle for adults. It's like it's a
Quaco.
E-bike for adults.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, okay, this is just, and you can actually go, if you like really go down the rabbit hole, which I did, it's like you go to Alibaba and all this place, you find the actual manufacturer and just order it directly from them.
Yep.
And so
is your friend.
Right. And so, then you're Googling, like I'm Googling for review, such and such bike review. Right. And, here's an e-bike review, and it's a review. Here's the bike, but you can, as you're watching it, you're like, this person is not the voiceover. You never see the person's face. Mm-hmm. You see different images of the product doing things, you see, and it's a wonderful this and a very powerful motor and blah, blah, blah. And this and that. And it's all just nonsense, it's not a, like a good review is, I've had this bike for 1,000 miles. Here's what I've learned, right? And here's how I ride this. Here's what I do here. I replaced this part with this.
Seat and the brakes were a little squishy, but here's what I did. And
totally,
that's a real review.
That's a real review. And there's a guy you could tell he lives in Santa Monica, and he's got an apartment that is like just like minutes from the beach, and every bike review that he does is the same. It's a great, I think it's like Happy Tail or something like that. And I'll give him a shout out here because it's great reviews, very entertaining. This guy, I don't know how, they send him these bikes, I'm sure. He unboxes them in his apartment, builds them in his apartment, does all the spec rundowns, and then he's got like a ramp coming out of his parking garage, at a particular grade. So he'll like judge the grade. Oh, this couldn't get up the grade. Oh, and it's the same route every time. Oh, here's our strip. We're going to do a speed test,
that's really good for like the consistency and
very good, because like after you've watched like 3 or 4 of them, you're like, what to expect, and you're like, oh, well, that bike definitely performed better there, or I do care about this, but I don't really care about that, or it's excellent, but the vast majority of them are not like that. And I think like Alex Hermosi, do you know who he is? He's a billionaire investor, and he's just amazing content you can get on YouTube for free from this guy. And his books, like he sells $1, $5, $13. They're very inexpensive, great books on how to grow your business, how to scale your business. He got his start in gyms, fitness centers. And he's, literally his journey was, build a gym, acquire other gyms, build that empire, and then scale it. and then started basically being a consultant to other gym owners. They could join his program. He'd like help them scale their gyms, and now he's basically kind of like phased out of that business, and now he's just like he's investing in these companies, and his whole racket is, and he's very upfront about it. He's like, look, my whole thing is like I'm not going to charge you for any of this stuff because my goal is that you watch this stuff, you implement it, and you get rich, and then you can invest with me in some of these projects. I'm trying to find more investors who are bought into my brand, right, and want to work with me, right. And obviously, if I help you get there, then you're gonna, you would think
You'll want
to potentially work with me.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just an excellent, Grant Cardone kind of has a similar kind of angle, except he's a lot more commercial. He'll charge you a lot more stuff for his stuff along the way, but he's going to make money on everybody, regardless if he can get there or not. But Hormozi was talking about this, and he was talking about how because of the explosion of content around AI now, you can literally blog posts, articles, books, all kinds of stuff that, this guy I met recently, he has what do they call it? Free resale rights, basically on all kinds of like how-to content. And he'll sell these packages to entrepreneurs. He'll say, hey, look, you pay me a certain amount per month, and I've got this trove of content, and you can take this content, put your name on it, and claim you wrote it. So it's free once you buy into my package. Like I have the rights, and I extend them to you. And so you can. These are ghost written books. And
Your ghostwriter.
Yeah. And he didn't write it. He's accumulated it and purchased it along the way. He's been doing this for 20 years, since the internet. I think he got started in like the 90s when the internet was like, so he's just accumulated this stuff. And I was like, it's amazing to me that you can still make money off of that model, considering like I can go and ask ChatGPT to like write brand new fresh content, and it has no rights. So like whatever I get it to write, like it belongs to me. That's my IP now, right? Yeah. And but because of the proliferation of content, people are now like, there's so much, the noise to signal ratio is so skewed, like to find really quality signal, like you have to dig through a mountain of crap, and so people that generate really good quality content, like that's really where the value is, like just being competent and demonstrating that competence on a regular basis is almost like unheard of, because everybody's looking for that shortcut. So it's interesting.
Well, here's where the dead internet theory starts to turn a little dark. So we knew the darkness would happen at some point. So this has been going on with SEO for a while. Imagine a future where almost all of the content that is posted on social media, Facebook, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Reddit, whatever, is created by AI. Not because of those sites, and not because they're, but it's like so let's say you wanted, I don't know, let's say you were a company and you were making car vacuum cleaners, and you wanted your name to get out there. You wanted to be like the Dyson of car vacuum cleaners or something.
Okay. Yep.
And so you would probably want some astroturfing. You might pay some people to write a review. You might do this, you might do that. Well, now what you would do is you would probably sign up with a company who would seed your company name, into a whole bunch of posts all over the internet, on Yahoo Answers back when that was a thing, or Quora, or GitHub, or Reddit. It would just look for certain terms, and then instead of just copy and pasting an advertisement, well, that would be taken down by a moderation team. Instead, the AI would write a plausible answer to the whatever topic it is, but it would name drop your product and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So that basically everything that you would encounter on the internet would be created by a bot in order to kind of guide your purchasing habits in some way, or for other reasons, for political reasons, or for whatever. So as this happens more and more, like in the past, it would be very expensive to do, but now it's so cheap that we've reached a tipping point where soon, and by soon, maybe within the next few years, we will not be able to find each other on the internet. Like if you post something to Reddit, all the responses will be AI. So we're both on Reddit, for example, but we'll never find each other. Our comments will never interact with each other.
That's interesting.
Because now we're separated by a million bots in between you and me. And so you won't be like someone will respond.
The internet will have finally succeeded in destroying our civilization.
Well, no. Well, that's the thing, is that our civilization would continue, but it just won't happen on the internet anymore. So like we'd have to get together in person, you mean? Yeah. Well, we've had a period of about 25 years where we've tried to do civilization virtually. And it's kind of worked in some ways and not so well in others. And you can tally up the wins and losses, and it's fine. But it's like that's about to end. And like what new thing will civilization take if it isn't going to be virtual? So I've found this idea because I am surrounded by AI generated content. My students are constantly turning in AI generated stuff, and they're, and I mean it's so wild. Like no one is going to be like, the people who are actually interested in learning are becoming fewer and further apart.
I wonder though, is it that they're not interested in learning, or they're not interested in thinking, and what the distinction is between those two? But I mean, like, I was one of my friends is an educator, and they were talking about how, for years now, in fact, like education is basically, it's not education at all. It's come to school, learn these facts, right? Absorb this information, and be able to regurgitate it effectively in a measurable way, so that our scores are good and we get our federal funding, whatever the case may be. Right. But the whole exercise of critical thinking and actually like parsing out, like, what do I think about that, and why do I think that, and can I form a cogent argument for or against, or can I creatively come up with a complete alternative? Like, I mean, that's like that's very rarely.
No one's teaching that.
Yeah.
So can I tell you a story about?
Of course, yeah.
That I've had.
Well, you're in academia, so you can probably see more of this than.
Oh my gosh! So here's one that I've found kind of fun to do. So, in teaching philosophy, one of the books that I have my students read is Augustine's Confessions. I don't know if you've ever read it before. It's classic literature.
Yeah. Not the whole thing of excerpts.
Okay. Well, one of the
too heady for me. I couldn't think through all the.
It's written in kind of it's a pretty high flying style, but he details how he had joined this religion when he was in what we would think of as high school, as a late teenager, and during his time he's in that religion for years, and he feels like he's kind of got it figured out, like this religion is the truth and it's kind of supporting his career, and everything is fine. And then as he goes on, he starts to lose confidence in this religion and winds up leaving it. And it's like very kind of heartbreaking for him, because like it was something that he had checked off the list of stuff. Like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm believing the right stuff. I'm going somewhere. And then it's like, no. And so it's just really hard for him. And so he kind of is adrift for a little bit. He eventually finds Christianity, becomes a bishop, all this other stuff. He's a saint now, we've seen it.
Right. Yeah. He arrived.
Yeah, he arrived. But he had this really difficult time in his life where he lost his religion.
Well, who can't identify with that? That's, common story.
So what I ask my students to do is to think about this. Think about his experience. And then write me a page and a half of what you would do if you had to change your religion. There's no wrong answer. Like, whatever it is, what would you do? And if you think to yourself, like, I would never change I'm super connected to it, I would never change it.
That's an F.
No. Then in that case, write it as advice to someone else.
Why they should consider your religion.
No, just what they should do. So now, you hope they find yours because you believe yours is
right. I see. Okay, here's this person struggling. You coach them through their
coach them through it. You're not going to just tell them, hey, join my church or join my mosque or whatever. Just say, well, what kind of things, what should they be doing as they try to find hopefully your religion, but find a new religion. And you get all sorts of cool answers from this. I've gotten some where like they've got the next religion already lined up, and they'll say things like, "Well, if I was ever to leave Hinduism, I already know what I would do. I would switch to this," and they're like talking about this Islam is amazing. This is exactly why I would pick it. And I'm not going to, but this is why. And they're like, "Oh, that's Plan B is
Plan B is right there." Yeah.
they're ready to go. They've already thought about it. And then you've got other people who are like, wow, I'm so connected to my Catholic family, I can't even imagine. But maybe if I was dating someone who believes something different, maybe I would try their beliefs, or I would, my grandma feels like she's a very spiritual person. Like I would talk to her. And you get some cool stuff, all sorts of variety of stuff. But then you'll get the ones, and probably about a fifth of them were AI generated, and they would say things. I mean, it's like there's no reason. I tell them like you don't have to put paragraph breaks in it.
Right.
There's no research. It's just
Yeah.
like you think about it. You write me a page. That's all you got to do. And they're turning in stuff. And the AI generated stuff is so bland. It's hilarious. Like they'll say things like, "Well, it's very important when choosing a religion to find something that connects deeply with your personal values. And these personal values can be a compass for your entire life. So first speak with a trusted family member about there." And you're like, trusted family member? Like,
What?
what's a trusted family member? Like, is it your grandma? Is it, your uncle who's a priest somewhere? Like,
Right.
what are you talking about? Trusted family member. It's so ridiculous. And it's just like,
It's like that scene in Man of Steel, right? When he's contemplating surrendering to Zod, and he goes and visits with that random priest or whatever. You're like, what? What is in the Superman movie, the Man of Steel?
Yeah.
He wanders into that church or whatever.
No advice.
Yeah. Well, what did you take away from that? Like you personally, did anything you read like impact you in a kind of a, oh, this was really thoughtful, or is it kind of more like what's your takeaway from the exercise?
Well,
as a professor.
So what I want them to start doing is to stop thinking about doing their education as a set of meaningless hoops to jump through. Like I'm going to put a set of hurdles in front of you, and at the end is a cheeseburger, otherwise known as a job. And if you just jump over this stuff, you get a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
And so it's like, great. So you're just jumping. And if that's all education is, then yeah, why wouldn't you get AI to write it for you? But what I want is I want them to think about truth and knowledge. But for this one, truth, right? So it's like people lose their religion. This is something that happens. And it's usually because they feel like they no longer can believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's a truth thing. What is truth? And so what would it mean? What would it be like to try to research something, try to find something out because it actually mattered whether it was right or wrong? And a lot
like
of
the
these
moon landing.
Yeah. But a lot of these students they've never really thought of it that way. Or they don't think about their studies as that. They think about their studies as
like an inquiry. It's not an inquiry at all. It's a menu of stuff I need to hoover up, basically.
Yeah. We gotta do these things, satisfy those people who
gets a cheeseburger.
Given me tasks that I gotta do now. And then if I don't cause trouble, I get to leave. And then it's like, well, this stuff does matter. Like if you want to be an accountant and you're in Principles of Accounting 1 and you're like, should I cheat on Principles of Accounting 1? It's like, are you planning to do that for the rest of your life? Like, don't you want to know how to be an accountant? Because that's what you said you wanted to do. Don't you want to learn it?
Right.
What's going on?
Yeah, that's really interesting, man. Yeah, I heard something a while ago that it was kind of it's been a useful model for me to kind of. It's so funny how like your experience living your life is all these like occurrences, and these events. We go through, we have these experiences, and then we try to find the meaning in it all, right? It's like, what does that mean? And how does this mean? Or what does it, finding a model that kind of, or conjuring up a model and saying, okay, well, I wonder if this model would, if I look backwards, would that kind of correctly or in a useful way compartmentalize the different things that have happened to me, right? And a lot of times it's the collapse of those models, right? Some event happens and your model goes out the window because it didn't explain this, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when people like lose their religion or any number of different things. It's so funny, the whole phrase lose. In fact, it's so funny. REM, that song was on literally yesterday in the car, and the kids, and I was singing along with it, and the kids were like, "What does this mean?" And I'm like, actually, it's so funny. I remember at the time the song came out, and they were like, "Oh, it's a song about a waitress, who doesn't get tipped, and like that's when you work a table for no tips, it's called, I lost my religion on that table." And I was like, okay, well, maybe, but I mean, so this model was this, and we can use religion as an example. Most people go through a 3-phase kind of journey, right? Phase 1 is an inherited model, right? So like my parents are Catholic, I grew up Catholic, and so now I'm Catholic, right? Sure. And at some point, and some people go their whole life, and that's it. They got this inherited model, and it's good enough for them, and they're good, right? And they never rethought it, and it's been good their whole life, and there's no reason to rethink it. It's been worked for me this far, and that's fine, right?
Sure.
Maybe like some of the students that go, I would never change my religion, right? Because they've never seriously investigated. Why would I? It's the truth, right? And then, but at some point, some people, in fact, many people, get dissatisfied with the inherited model, whatever it is. And it's like, this is not for me. And it may not even be the model itself. It may be the person who gave you the model, right? You find out that individual is flawed or whatever the case may be, right? Like, maybe a parent disappoints you or whatever the case may be. You're betrayed in some way, and you're like, oh, well, they claimed they were a Christian. I can't be a Christian anymore. Christianity is bullshit, whatever. And so they move on, right? And so the second phase that people move into is a borrowed model, right? So they got like your students that were like, oh, if I left Hinduism, I'd trade it for Islam, right? Which is again another inherited model, right? I mean, like this is just, it wasn't your inherited model, but many people have inherited that model. That's a model again that is, it existed before you, and you're now taking it on, and sure. Almost like going to your closet and like I don't like this shirt, I'm going to take that shirt, And at the end of the day, though, it's still a shirt, right? It's still a shirt doing the same thing, right? You didn't change into a dress or a ballet outfit, right? I mean, like that, it's still just a shirt, right? And then the third phase is a created model, right? Where it's like I had my inherited model I let go of. I've tried on a few inherited models, and a lot of times it's that search for belonging and wanting to be a part of something too. And it's like, oh, these people really have it together. I see it like I'm in the insurance business. We see it in the insurance business all the time. Somebody gets recruited into the business by some friend who works at such company X, right? And then they realize, whatever, it's hard, it's challenging, they're not meeting their goals, whatever the case may be. Or they did meet them for a while and they felt capped out, or somebody lied to them, somebody betrayed them, whatever the case may be. And they're like, okay, I got to go find something else, right? And so, and they're looking for that culture that they can kind of like get into, right? And at a certain point, the people that are really at the top of their of the industry of their game, they have literally discarded everything and put together something for themselves. And it doesn't even have to be starting their own company, but they are truly independent in the way that they've cobbled together all these different things to provide some kind of service for their clients. And it could be a targeted service, it could be a general service, it could be any number of different things. My phone's right here.
Oh no, if it's me, I'm out here.
Yeah. But so like I see that a lot in religion. I see it a lot in politics. Like, so, oh, my parents were Democrats, I'm Democrat, right? And it's like, oh, Democrats, now I'm Republican, right? And at some point, oh no, actually I'm a libertarian. And at some point, right, like the people that are truly like truly free thinkers, right, which is really the essence of, like, I think, being self-actualized, like as a human, like thinking your own thoughts, right? Like, I may affiliate with this line of thought or that line of thought or whatever, but I don't need that brand, right? Like either to benefit me or to avoid something else, or like, that safety in crowds. Or, I just got sent to prison. I got to either join the Aryan Brotherhood or I got to join, what I mean? I got to join one of these people, or else I'm going to be, it ain't going to be good.
Out, yeah.
That's, and so it's like okay, no, I think these things about this, I think that thing about that. Oh, well, you can't do that because that's Republican and that's Democrat, or and or like we were talking about the Israel and Palestine situation, recently, and it's like, well, if you're whatever, you're outraged by the events of October 6th, then you have to be this. Well, not really. I mean, like, I support this, but I definitely don't support these things, and and what about that? And I think there's such a shortage of people that can let go of, their affiliations for long enough to have a negotiated or collaborative solution to, or even a plan of action. Like, forget calling it a solution. Like, hey, we just need 3 things that we can agree on when we leave this room, right? That we're all going to do, right? Oh, I can't even do that. It's like, I would have agreed with you on that one, but because you're on that team, I can't agree with anything. It's I don't know. It could be depressing. Like what the Tom Ford they were talking about earlier. It's just like, yeah, it's just that is very.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I've always, so like, I see that process definitely in politics, where people will, sometimes like almost have like a conversion moment where they're like, I am no longer a member of this party, I'm a member of the other party.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they even have like the zeal of the converted when they
born again.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I would also like a new name, and
right.
please baptize me.
I will no longer be called. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also see that in my field, in philosophy, I see that with a lot of times students will come in and they'll have one view, and then they'll learn some philosophy, and they're like, oh my gosh, Immanuel Kant, he's got it figured out. Finally, this someone who makes sense. And then, like, they for 3 or 4 semesters, every paper they write is about how, like, actually Kant was right about this thing, and people have misunderstood him. Like, oh, nothing more Kant. All right, that's cool. We can do more. That's fine. And then later on, you hope that they just stop being Kant partisans, and they're like, well, he had many wonderful things to say, and here are the things that really resonated with me, or things I think it was very insightful. But that doesn't mean that he's right about everything, and or even that that's the right way that we should be thinking about it now. But so I see that sort of 3-stage process. The thing that I'm curious about your thoughts on, I almost wonder how far can that go with religion? Because it seems to me that with philosophy, we're talking about like my interaction with reality, and there's reality out there, and there's me, and the thing between the two of us, that's philosophy. And so, since I'm different from everybody else,
you're having your own unique experience.
Own unique experience. My philosophy is going to look a little different from everybody else's. So what's on the other end of the religion question? And it's the divine.
Hell.
Well, if you get it wrong. But,
if you get it wrong, yeah, you burn forever.
But the divine is on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So, does the divine want something from us, or want to be approached in a particular way? And That's a really interesting question. I mean, you got stuff like from our religious tradition. I mean, Saint Paul's address to the Greeks, the Athenians, where he starts talking about the unknown God and like
Right.
the unknown God.
This statue right here.
Yeah, this statue.
Yeah.
Unknown God, and that he wants us to find him, and that he was willing to overlook a bunch of stuff in the past, but now it's time to like make things right. And he's shown us how to do that because the resurrection of his son, that he's made this one man, the judge of the living and the dead. And it's like, wow, that's a really interesting, that's a really interesting claim. That wouldn't be the kind of thing where it's like, well, I'm going to take a piece of that. I'm going to take a piece of this other thing. I'm going to take a piece of that. It's like the divine is probably fine with that. Like, well, maybe the divine is fine with that, or maybe not. In the same way with if I'm talking about my philosophy, if my philosophy includes something that reality just refuses, where it's like, my philosophy is that everything that danger is an illusion. That's my philosophy. And it's like, well, reality might say something else when you encounter it. So like there are limits to how much you can sort of that creative process that you're talking about. So what are the limits for that creative third process?
Well, so, and I'm not even going to pretend to have an answer to that question. But I think it is maybe helpful to contextualize what I'm talking about. So I'm not like, I'm not even putting it out there. It's that model is a borrowed model. I can't even claim credit for it.
It's like really fascinating to think about, right? That third step. The third step, I think, is the most interesting one.
Yeah, and so think about like, for example. So I'm a Christian. You're a Christian. We both raised Christian. Okay, so in context of your relation, and I think one of the things that's really interesting, just as an aside, about every faith tradition has its own kind of thing that makes it, I think, kind of special, right? Like Buddhism, for example, like it doesn't even require a deity,
Some versions of it,
yeah, some versions of it are just you can roll without one, right? So Christianity, one of the things about Christianity that's so interesting as a faith is that it's a very personal God that it invites you to have a relationship with. It's not even really about, I don't think, about a set of beliefs that I adopt, right? It's not like, if you read like even Jesus's, teachings in the Bible, it's not like, in fact, he spent his entire time like deconstructing or challenging the existing belief set, right? Like, for example, like, honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. Well, that's one of the 10 commandments. God ostensibly wrote this on stone tablets. This is written in stone, so to speak, right? Set in stone. And even just look, dude, like the Sabbath was made for you. Like you weren't made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a day of rest for you. Like you're not made to be some slave to this like rigid day where you must find loopholes so that you can get anything done. Like that you're missing the whole point, right? Okay, and I think the same thing with all these different. We need principles to organize. So like there's this tension between like you have this organized religion, let's call it the church in this case, right? Which any organization needs a set of rules in order to organize around, right? So like we're going to manufacture things when forming a church, right? That by their nature are not conducive to your individual walk with God. It's not like it's intentionally obstructive. It just is obstructive because we're committing to these artificial forms that are not scriptural. We can attempt to make them scriptural. We can attempt to ground them in scripture, and yet they are not. There's no daycare in the Bible. There is no, you know what I mean?
What?
Like right. What
about the annual women's retreat?
Right. None of that stuff is there, right? Small group is not in the Bible, right? There were small groups, but like this is not a biblical principle. Like that this is a Wednesday night. We have the visitation. That's again, it's useful it's just not it's not essential scriptural practice, right? It could be useful, it could be a useful form, and it's also just not required in any way, right? So like it as in just keeping it in Christianity, like my relationship with you as a human like has evolved over the years, and the more that we get to know each other, the better our relationship becomes, right? The more value I'm able to add to your life, the more value I receive from you, the more memories that we create, the more experiences we create, the better able I am to deal with certain challenges because of the input that you've given me in the past, because I can call upon you like, hey man, my son's dealing with this. Have you had any experience? In fact, we were talking about ADD last week.
Yeah.
And in that conversation, I had multiple people reach out to me and saying, hey, my kid had ADD. I'd love to share with you what we did. Right. That's great. That's what relationship is. It is, I am living this life, and by inviting you into my life, I am enhancing my experience in that life, right? Not only my experience to make it easier for me, but so that I can be more effective with the people that I love, right? Like my son, et cetera. And I think Christianity very much so. Like, I mean, if you, in one of Paul's letters, he talks about like being transformed by the renewing of your mind in Christ, right? Like it's not like I'm adopting this set of rules or living by this code. It's because of that relationship, because of that daily like and constant attitude of gratitude and prayer and whatever else that you choose to take on, right? But again, those are choices that only you can make, right? You could go and participate in this church or that church, or do this and that, or live according to these set of rules, or whatever, read your Bible, do your daily devotional, whatever the case may be, and never actually, well, not never, but like only minimally interact with the relationship aspect of what the faith truly is about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah. So think of it. So here's kind of how I'm understanding that third step. Which, by the way, I love that model that you suggested. The three, like the inherited, borrowed, and then the creative, right? So so taking it out of religion and just thinking about our relationship as siblings, as brothers. If there was a book out there that was like how to be the perfect brother, we might say in our younger years have opened it up and been like, "Ooh, I really hope we're doing the right stuff," you know. But then later on, we might open it up and be kind of amused at like, "Oh, wow, actually, this doesn't apply to us at all." Not because we're not really good brothers to each other, but just that book didn't seem as relevant.
The stage of life you're at, it lost its relevance, its potency, or whatever. Yeah.
Or maybe we look at it and we're like, wow, this is nuts. It's like we're reading an autobiography of ours. Like,
right. Or the opposite.
They,
Oh my God, we're screwing this up. We're not doing any of these things. Yeah.
Yeah. Or were they following us with a camera? You know?
Right.
So I think the same kind of thing might happen within religion, where say, okay, whatever religious context you're part of, maybe if someone was to hand you like the ideal, insert religion name, or whatever the religion participant name there, like ideal Christian, ideal Muslim, ideal Buddhist, whatever, and you read through it, and you might find that like, wow, like I this matches me perfectly. Or you might find things where you're like, oh, that's weird. Like I don't seem to fit into this mold quite right.
But that because
that wouldn't mean that you're doing it wrong.
Well,
right?
So the question I like to ask is, if, and again, just keeping in the realm of Christianity, right? If Jesus was to come back, well, not come back. Let's say he was to come, because we know when he comes back, he's coming back to destroy his enemies. But
oh
no. Again, depending on what branch of Christianity you want to subscribe to, and there's a lot of interesting theories there. Anyway, let's say Jesus was to come for the first time and do his ministry now. How would he interact with, people, our culture, how would he do his journey? How would he get his disciples? How would he get his message out there? What would his message be, right? And I mean, I don't presume to know, but I can read what he wrote, right? What was written about what he said, and if I take what that is and I put it in today's world, right? So there's kind of multiple ways to do this. One way to do this is to take the actual words that were said and apply them to this culture, which I don't know is the best way to do it. It's almost like when we have these conversations about the government, the constitutional government. Well, the framers of the Constitution said this. It's like, well, the framers of the Constitution lived before airplanes. I mean, like, what are you talking
Very
about?
agrarian society, very small.
They didn't know. I mean, there was no mass production. There was no. I mean, they didn't have. I mean, these are core technologies that we don't even think about that have fundamentally changed the way our culture operates. It's framers. If Ben Franklin, there's a series on Ben Franklin right now you can watch on Apple TV. It's phenomenal. Michael Douglas is Ben Franklin, and it's excellent.
Okay.
And
I need to check
excellent. But it's just interesting to think of, and Ben Franklin is, by the way, my favorite founding father. So Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, TJ, they're my two favorites.
The most celebrity one, like the one that was super famous all over the entire world.
Totally, yeah, totally, yeah. But he, you know, if he was alive today, right? And again, not teleported from the past, but if he had been born 70 years ago and was 70 years old today and negotiating whatever. He was trying to negotiate for our independence back then. Maybe he's trying to negotiate. Who knows what he's trying to negotiate now? Pick your challenge out there, right? How would he, right, approach the situation given his mindset and the experiences that made him who he was, right? And you know, that's very difficult to discern. Like, you just kind of have to. I mean, some of that is just like, you know, I'm gonna take a guess based on what I'm gonna make some leaps, and I'm gonna make some assumptions, and I'm gonna apply this and see what happens, right? Because I think that's like if Buddha, right, had just really, you know, he had just found enlightenment last week, right, and had you know, I mean, he was found enlightenment last week, and had now released, you know, his what is it, eightfold path or whatever. And how would that apply in today's world, right? That is what I'm talking about. Like, and I'm not saying like scrap your faith tradition. I'm just saying, like, I mean, scrap it if it doesn't work for you, but like, by all means, like pursue a real created experience in whatever routes you find applicable now, you know, which I think very few people do that. I mean, because people are obsessed with finding the right answer, which again goes back to the way we were educated, right? It's like, what's the correct answer here? You know, I have multiple A, B, C, or D. Which one is it, right? And I know
this one of these
because it's this one, yeah. And like the catechism, right? Who made me? God made me. That's it. End of story. And, you know, and you know, I told my daughter that, you know, and she's like, well, it doesn't land the same way unless you have a whole environment of accepting authority as passed down as rigid as truth, right? Like that those catechismic answers don't work in a atmosphere of inquiry. It's like, okay, well, who's God? How did he make me? What was his intention? What or her intention? How do I function now as a created being? Like, these are you know, these are the real questions that like determine how you wake up with whatever perspective you have to tackle, you know, the day that's in front of you, you know? And do you view your day as something to tackle or something to glide through effortlessly, you know, like, and which one is correct, right? Well, I mean, dude, like it's you find things that work for you. And I think the real challenge for most people, for me, for sure, is admitting when things don't work for you, right? It's like, man, this is not working for me. Yet I wake up every day and I do the exact same thing. And at some point I got to go, like, why am I continuing to? It's like when Jesus asked Paul, why you kick against the pricks or what are you doing, man? Why do you jump on the bit, right? It's like this is not working for me. I need to like re-examine my approach here.
Words. Stop resisting.
Oh yeah, well,
Sorry,
Yeah. Oh, so another thing that's really interesting, by the way, is to down abruptly change the subject, but Apple Music has a 100 greatest albums of all time
Oh,
on Apple Music. It's excellent, by the way. And so
okay.
number 93 or 94 on the list, I'm working my way up from 100, is Rage Against the Machines.
The first album.
Just
Yeah.
and I just listened to that this morning. So Stop Resisting. And I'm like, oh,
It holds up really well. I was doing kind of a fun music listen earlier last night, trying to, some of the stuff that was popular when I was in high school and college, just to see, how well it holds up. Rage holds up really well. Metallica holds up pretty good. Um, Marilyn Manson. So I don't know if you remember the Mechanical Animals album, the one where he's wearing that gray androgynous latex suit on the on the cover. It's like super weird looking, and he's got that song. I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me, and it's just like just says over and over, drugs, 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 drugs. And about halfway through it, like a gospel choir come in, and they're all
chimes in.
drugs,
Drugs.
drugs. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, oh, this is engineered purely to make parents and teenagers mad at each other.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's the whole point of this.
To offend. Yeah.
But not just to offend, but to like make these two groups mad
Mhm.
at each other, not at me, at each other. And I was able to finally appreciate it as just purely a performance art piece. Like this is theater. It's staging, and it's actually, I was able to appreciate it. I was like, this is way better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Held up better because like it's
Again, because you could contextualize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the context is like so. I mean that's where the real meaning of anything is in the context. It's not so much the message when and to whom and from whom and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to continue for another 30 minutes like we did last time, but let's we're going to get this down to an hour. So we did 75 minutes today. Next week,
it's coming out. It's 90, then 75, which means next week it will be 60.
Yeah, we'll do it, man. That's another great one, man. So if you're watching this, you had any loose ends you want us to tackle next week, feel free to hit us up on the YouTube, the Facebook, the face space, whatever your socials, and you face. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. So and thank you for myself. Thank you for all the comments that were generated back to me and the advice that was given. Very helpful. And did you one thing we could say, did you get any responses from any of from your peeps? No.
Gotta
share, man. Gotta share.
Other than my wife, who said, why is there that notification sound in the background? And I was like, that wasn't me. My phone was off. So. But that's the only one that I got. So hopefully this time it's a little better.
That reminds me that I did not buy this, by the way, but so for Mother's Day, for anniversary, my anniversary was Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
8 years.
8 years. Yeah. And so when I had gone to buy an anniversary card, they have, the serious, the romantic ones, the AI generated ones, and
Humor.
some of them were humor, right?
Anniversary humor.
So I went straight for humor. And I ended up not doing a fully humorous one, but there was one in there that I was so close to getting, and I was like, I can't do it.
Oh no.
But it said something like, when people ask me, you're so lucky, what is it like to be married to someone who's loving and generous and kind and considerate and just so yeah. And you open it up, and it's like, and I always tell them, ask my wife.
That's my wife. Yeah.
All right, man. I'll catch you next time.
See ya.
See ya.